Hey guys, how's everyone going? Or how's everyone doing? It's going to be a great stream today. We're going to go over the market overview. We're going to cover everything that's happened over the past week, including some TA for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and more, and some upcoming events and big news items that show July will be an extremely bullish month. So stay tuned. It's going to be a great time. And just real quick, just confirm you guys can hear me. How's it going, Junior, Revin, Claudio, Dreamer, Sod, Bayo, Brian? A lot of good people in here. A lot of regulars. Awesome. Awesome. Appreciate it. Loud and clear. Great to see. Perfect, perfect. Victor says, just working. Ready for the stream with CryptoData. Awesome, awesome. People still got to work throughout the day. Good to see you still have time to listen to these streams. So I try to make these streams as audio friendly as possible so you guys can work, listen in your headphones wherever you need to, and so you can still go about your day. Paco, good to see you. Leon, Champs, Jow, a lot of good people in here. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. So, for this market overview, again, hope you guys are having a great Tuesday wherever you're at. So, liquidations. Past 24 hours, we've had $143 million of liquidations. Now, that's been split between longs and shorts. So, again, nothing too crazy. It's just been echoed by the chop that's been happening in the market. Again, with all the tariff news that Trump has introduced, the August 1st deadline, etc., which we'll get into. Really nothing too crazy, but today we do have some outperformers such as Ethereum, SPX, and a few others, which we will cover as well. Now, looking at the liquidation levels. So for the 1 week, interesting here is we do have a lot of liquidation levels near that 106 to 107K level. Then also we have a few near 110K and higher. So we are technically closer to the 110K levels, which again, that could be an argument that we reached that first, but there is still a lot of liquidity below. So also, if there's any bad news, that'll be an argument to bid at the 106 to 107K levels, as that would be a good mean reversion trade, in my opinion. So watch that. But yeah, we're pretty split. And then if you look at the 24-hour, there is still more liquidity technically to the downside. But again, that upside 110K is going to get tagged sooner or later. So if we do have any dips, it will be for buying, and that target will be 110K afterwards. Now, let's go over some crypto news that came out today. So some big news that probably most of you guys aren't aware of is Phantom recently introducing perps to their platform. It's powered by Hyperliquid. So I don't know if everyone knows how big this is. If you have a Phantom wallet, you can now trade perps. You can now trade leverage up to 40x leverage. So again, everyone in here should have a BloFin account. Links in description, which is non-KYC. But also, if you have a Phantom wallet, you can now trade leverage on there. So there's a lot of people who already trade meme coins, right? A lot of 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds trade memes. Now they're trading leverage. And so this is very risky. A lot of people get wrecked on leverage, as you all well know. But the fact that it's being introduced to basically everyone now is going to be pretty crazy. And now we're going to see the leverage space probably get a little more volatile, to say the least. But yeah, this is some big news. And it's just showing that widespread adoption is happening, and now you have leverage available to the masses. And so this is some big news and something that, again, will be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, going over some other news in the crypto space. So since July 2nd, there's some big things that have come out. One, we obviously had BlackRock and other big institutions continuing to accumulate Bitcoin and Ethereum with their ETFs, which shows continued adoption and interest, which is very good to see. Also, you have not only BlackRock, but then you have other people talking about cryptocurrency, such as the U.S. Director of Digital Assets, Bo Hines. This guy's been consistently promoting crypto, and he says, quote, "We want as much Bitcoin as we can possibly accumulate." So again, This guy has been consistently advocating for acquiring more Bitcoin for the US government. He's very tied in with White House officials, with the Trump administration. So if he says that we want as much Bitcoin as we can possibly accumulate, then that tells you, one, remember when the US was talking about creating an accumulation plan for Bitcoin, especially when they signed the executive order for the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and said, we will support accumulating more Bitcoin when there is a delta neutral strategy. Well, that delta neutral strategy is via tariff savings, is via gold certificates. There's a lot of other ways they can accumulate Bitcoin while still being delta neutral. So this just re-emphasizes that and shows that the government is telegraphing that they're going to buy more Bitcoin. And so guys, that's why so many of these institutions are front running them. That's why you have MetaPlanet and MicroStrategy continuing to TWAP Bitcoin. Basically, that means they're buying it no matter what the price is. And we're starting to see more adoption come across other countries and nation states as well. Now, not to only mention that, this was actually one of the biggest announcements was Senator Cynthia Lummis introduces a bill to exempt tax on crypto transactions under $300. So I don't know if you realize how big this is. Okay, imagine that you're using a crypto credit card or debit card and you're using it on Apple Pay. You're buying groceries every day. You're buying things off Amazon. You're buying, goodies that you want. You're buying, whatever have you, you're buying these things and they're all under $300 transactions. You're not going to be taxed for any of that. Think about that. Think how big that would be. And that would be a gateway to eventually having no taxes at all for crypto, right? In my opinion, if this bill gets passed, which I hope it does, because eventually you'll start to see the US maybe skirting the line of introducing no taxes on crypto or even no taxes on US-based cryptocurrencies, which they were flirting with that idea in the beginning of January, which would be for XRP, HBAR, Algo, and a few others. So I believe this is just foreshadowing of what's to come. And so keep this in mind. If this bill actually goes through, it's going to be a huge time and a very big advancement in cryptocurrency. Also, we had Trump passing the Big Beautiful Bill. And what this means is the Big Beautiful Bill, some big things that were in it was no taxes on tips and no taxes on overtime. And so when you see the effects of that come to fruition, which will in a couple weeks when people start getting their paychecks, where do you think they're going to do with that discretionary income? They're going to invest it back into stocks or back into crypto, right? So just think how much of a tailwind that's going to create in the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, etc. So this bill, yes, it was nearly $5 trillion plus for adding to the deficit over the next 10 years. But there also was a lot of savings. There's also the tax cuts that were continued. And there was a lot of other things that basically showed a lot of liquidity injection back into the market from this bill passing. And so I don't think everyone realizes how bullish this is for the market. Yes, there's discussions if, it adds to the deficit and all of that. But depending if the cuts make up for it, if the investments make up for it, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I do think short term, this is very, very bullish for the market. And we'll start to see the fruits of that labor come to fruition over the next few weeks and few months. Also, we have Crypto Week, July 14th through the 18th. Guys, that's in a week. This is going to be another catalyst for the market. You have the Clarity Act, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, which everyone knows CBDCs are very bearish, right? No one wants banks to have their own digital currency and where they can control how much you spend, control your money, control when you can spend it. Again, that's very a dystopian conspiracy, foreshadowing there. But nonetheless, it is still a possibility. So something to keep in mind. You do have the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, and also you have the Genius Act, which is the Crypto Stablecoin Bill Act. This will be very bullish for Ethereum, which I will explain later on. But nonetheless, this is Crypto Week, and this shows, one, it's going to be a bullish catalyst, and two, a lot of people, in my opinion, are going to be buying the rumors, selling the news on this. So keep an eye on that. Now, earlier in the week, there was some FUD. One of the FUD news items that came out was some dormant Bitcoin addresses moved thousands of Bitcoin worth over billions of dollars for the first time in 14 years. Now, a few people were debating what this was. Some were debating it was a quantum computer that had cracked Bitcoin's code and now was targeting some of the oldest wallets. Others were saying it was government officials that were moving their Bitcoin around. Curious to what you guys think this was, and who these wallets were, because I believe it was 8 wallets that were active in moving this Bitcoin around. So something very interesting to see. Also, some of them didn't even do a test transaction. They just transferred 10,000 Bitcoin in one go. So that's very interesting as well. Now, also, you have other people commenting on Bitcoin. Obviously, Drake is commenting on Bitcoin, including it in his song. And then you do have the U.S. Secret Service launching a global operation to combat crypto scams. Now, guys, for everyone watching this stream right now, do not fall for crypto scams, especially the ones where people DM you claiming to be a legitimate person. For example, CryptoData, will never DM you, period. I will never DM you. If someone DMs you claiming to be me, they're a scammer, they're an impersonator. Usually they do it via an encrypted message, or they hide their username so you can't see it. Guys, it's a scam. Block them immediately. I will never DM you. That goes with any Jim Hunter. That goes with Luke Belmar. These guys will never DM you. Do not answer DMs. Anyone asking you for a payment, it's a scam. Always, 100% of the time. Do not answer them. Block them immediately. That is something I want to talk about. Also, if you get any emails claiming to be from MetaMask, Coinbase, Amazon that says you have unauthorized withdrawal or your shipping is delayed or it's been, rerouted somewhere else, guys, it's a scam, okay? MetaMask, first of all, never takes your email, so how would they have it in the first place? Coinbase isn't going to email you asking you to click a link. Go to your direct account on the official Coinbase website, see if there's been any unauthorized withdrawals. Like, this is just common sense stuff, but people fall for it all the time. They get text messages. There's another one for a toll booth, basically saying you have unpaid tolls and you need to pay it immediately or, risk the IRS coming after you. Guys, these are all scams, right? They try to create this fear tactic with you that you need to act right now. Otherwise, something bad's going to happen. These are all scams, text messages, calls, emails, all of that. Like, please, please, please. And I went over this as well in my risk management stream yesterday to watch out for these scams. So again, I know I spent some time on this, but scams are very, very prevalent now in crypto, especially as it's getting more popular in the space. So please don't fall for these scams. No one's ever going to DM you. Block them immediately. Also, after the big, beautiful bill got passed, Elon Musk says he would start the America Party, and he did. Now, he started this party because he saw all the waste, fraud, and abuse going on in the government. Remember, he worked at DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. He saw all the corruption going on. He saved the government hundreds of billions of dollars. But at the same time, the government only added to its deficit after that, which, again, made Elon mad, rightfully so. And so now he's starting the American Party, which is a third-party system away from the Republican and Democratic Party. So that's something interesting. Now, something I will say, whenever Elon did start this, is someone asked Elon, will American Party embrace Bitcoin? Elon said, fiat is hopeless, so yes. So that shows you that Elon is very much for Bitcoin, as we already knew, but the fact that he's actually acknowledging even more and discrediting fiat shows that maybe the American Party is the Bitcoin party, right? That could be something that's interesting to see. Curious what you guys think of the American Party. If you like it, you hate it. If, in my opinion, yes, it is going to take a lot of people away from the Republican Party, which, again, I don't want to make this a political stream, but just based off the numbers, it's going to be better for the Democrats because they're going to have more of a centralized system, whereas the Republican Party is going to be split between Republican Party and American Party. So again, not the best from a voting perspective. Going to be interested to see how they spin that, if they combine themselves, if they come to a resolution, etc. But going to be watching that as well. Now, speaking of Elon, so there's been a lot of discourse between Treasury Secretary Bessent and Elon Musk. And originally, whenever Elon was having a spat with Trump a couple weeks ago, some people were speculating that Elon got in a fight with Scott Bessent. Scott hit him in the face, and that's what caused Elon's black eye. And then it just, basically crumbled from there. So here you have Treasury Secretary Bessent saying Elon Musk is not popular and should focus on business rather than politics. You have Elon saying Bessent is a George Soros stooge who can't do math. And so this is just, again, another drama that's been happening in the market. So, again, it's just noise at the end of the day. But, yeah, these two are definitely at each other's throats. So something interesting to see on there. Also, you have MetaPlanet buying another $2,200 or 2,200 Bitcoin. Now they hold over 1.69 billion worth. So MetaPlanet is the MicroStrategy of Japan. They're continuing to buy more Bitcoin regardless of the price. So that's where you have more buy pressure, more tailwind for Bitcoin to continue higher. And also, you have the government depositing 218,000 Ethereum to Coinbase. This was big news because what this shows was, yes, it's not a big amount, $218,000. But what it shows is now the government may be interested in Ethereum. So remember, Bitcoin has been in the limelight. The government has a SBR, Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. They're going to have an accumulation plan to buy more Bitcoin. But really, their attention hasn't really been on Ethereum too much. But what I want to say is, remember World Liberty Fi? Remember their portfolio? I think Ethereum is their top holding. I think they hold over 300, 400 million worth of Ethereum, maybe more. So if the government now creates some type of strategic Ethereum reserve, SER, right? That could even be another catalyst, because remember, they're passing the crypto stablecoin bill, which, if you think about it, the crypto stablecoin bill, what are the two biggest stablecoins? USDT and USDC. What network do they run on? The Ethereum network on the ERC20 contract address. What do you need to transact on the Ethereum network? You need Ethereum for gas fees. What happens when people use Ethereum for gas fees? Well, that Ethereum is burned via the EIP 1559 mechanism, therefore making it Ethereum deflationary. Standard supply-demand economics tells you when supply is reduced and demand is increased, you have a massive rise in price. Therefore, Ethereum is going to massively rise in the future, which I am very, very close to calling along in Gem Hunters today on Ethereum, because it is very bullish and it is showing some good price action, especially because the weekly closed above the 50 EMA for the first time in 8 months, which I will cover in a minute. But nonetheless, this is a small transaction, but it could be foreshadowing a lot more. So keep an eye on that. And then also you have Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, testifying before the Senate on crypto legislation. So you have guys like Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, really trying to help push forward the regulations in crypto and the legislation. So guys, at the very least, they're going to help deregulate what's going on in crypto, help create some streamlined regulation as far as clear rules, and then also help to reduce some of the guardrails. And so crypto can really flourish. And so this is what's needed for full crypto adoption. You need people that are literally in the space since the beginning, actually helping to cultivate a healthy regulatory space for the space to flourish. And so this is very bullish. Like them or hate them, they are helping to push the industry forward. So something good to see there. Then also you have Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev saying tokenization is the biggest innovation in the past decade. Now, for those who don't know, the Robinhood CEO has been very bullish on crypto. Robinhood, the Web2 company, has been getting into Web3. They recently introduced staking on the Robinhood platform, I believe for Solana, ETF, and Bitcoin. Maybe just one or two of those, but nonetheless, they introduced staking. So more of these Web2 companies are now bridging over to Web3 and integrating it because they see that's what their clients want. That's what their customers want. They want to be able to invest in crypto, to be able to stake. And that's what Robinhood recognizes. Robinhood also recognizes, like the BlackRock CEO Larry Fink does, that tokenization is the future. And so tokenization, for anyone who doesn't know, RWA, real-world assets, you're tokenizing assets on the blockchain, i.e., you can buy real estate on the blockchain, you can buy cars, jewelry, watches, what have you. This is very bullish because let's put a real-world use case in this, because people are saying, yeah, why would I want to buy it on the blockchain? So let's just say there's a $10 million house in Dubai, but you don't have that amount of money to invest in it. Let's just say there's an NFT created that fractionalized shares of that house. So say that house was now split into 50 different shares. So $200,000 each that you could invest in, and then you would benefit on the appreciation of that house. So say you have 50 NFT pieces, each $200,000. Okay, cool, I got one. I have a share of that house. Say that house doubles in the next 5 years to $20 million. Well, that 100% gain, now your NFT is worth $400,000 instead of $200,000. Do you see the advantage of tokenizing assets on the blockchain? It gives you the freedom to fractionalize, and it's secure, immutable, transparent, censorship resistant. There's so many advantages to having tokenization on the blockchain. So guys, like, that is just surface level stuff. I'm not even getting deep into what's possible in it. And so the opportunities are going to be endless. And so if you can recognize that right now of how big it's going to be and why Larry Fink, the CEO of a $10 trillion asset under management company, is so bullish on it, then I don't know what to tell you, because it is the future and it's where we're going. And so companies like Maple Finance, like Syrup, like Ondo, all these RWA platforms that are gaining so much traction the past couple months, it's going to continue. And you're going to see more of these companies start to flourish. So that is something I wanted to mention and give you an example so you guys can actually see and conceptualize the advantage of tokenization and why you would want to tokenize assets on the blockchain. All right, let's go and look at some comments, because I know that was a lot of news that I covered as far as crypto is concerned. I'm going to actually go over some macro news, but I usually like to look at questions in between so you guys aren't getting left behind. Let's see. GM Champs, Nikolai, how's it going? Neo, hey, Neo says I'm new. Welcome, Neo. Glad to have you here. Gem Hunters is a great group. If you want to join the free group, it's in the description. The paid group is 1 Ethereum for a yearly subscription. That's only going to get more expensive as Ethereum rises in price. And then also you have BloFin referral link in the description as well. Also, guys, if you haven't liked the stream, please like it. I'd really, really appreciate it. It helps make this free content worthwhile and helps spread Gem Hunters to the masses. Also, subscribe if you haven't. Really appreciate that as well. Januka, appreciate it. Let's see. Junior, no, so the time of the stream changed for this week, but next week it should be back to normal times. So I should be doing this stream at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week. Mirza says, GMCD, sending you lots of positive energy. Hey, appreciate you, Mirza, sending you positive energy as well. Angelaro says, in a meeting, trying to do 2 things at once. Hey, right? I used to be there too, listening to the YouTube while also doing my work. It was always fun. Genel says, thanks, CryptoData. Much love. Hey, much love, Genel. Mohammed, hey, Data. Hope you're doing well. Any thoughts on hype? Hey, Mohammed. Yeah, I'm bullish on hype. I mean, ever since their integration with Phantom recently, it just shows you how bullish they are. And any fees they make off of that integration, off of liquidations, etc., they're using that to buy back the hype token. Keep in mind, though, for hype, is they do have big unlocks. I want to say it's in September. It's going to be a large amount of unlocks. And so keep that in mind as well for team unlocks. Ghost Rider, ETH is hyping. Would you hold if you bought it at 2,600? Yes, Ghost Rider, I would hold. Especially as it's above its 50 EMA on the weekly at 25.50. You could use a stop loss like around 25.30. Mahedi, see, hey, John Luke, have a look at BTC.D later. Are we finally breaking down? Seems like it to me. I'll take a look at Bitcoin dominance. Mahedi, if you could remind me in about 15 minutes to look at Bitcoin dominance again, I would appreciate that. Ismaili says, how would you identify liquidity sweeps? Would you consider it as a key confluence for your strategy? Yes. Yeah, if we had a liquidity sweep while that coincided with a major support level and my indicators were also oversold on the RSI or stock RSI, 100% buy at that point. Because again, these market makers want to hunt liquidity. That's how they make money. They make money from getting liquidations, right? So if you have liquidity levels that get stopped, that get tagged, that's usually the spot where market makers like to mean revert, because then you get shorts being overly confident, and then you have their liquidity levels actually higher. So then market makers will revert to the upside, and boom, you have a nice little liquidity injection after that. Mirza says, hey, CD, so I remember you talking about how if we follow the winners, we'll already be ahead of most people. So I'm wondering right now, are virtuals, Fartcoin, and Hype still considered the winners? I think so. Virtuals on the base ecosystem. I've had people ask me about the base eco, if it's going to gain traction whenever the ETH ecosystem gains. Because again, L2s on ETH usually gain traction as betas after Ethereum does. So yeah, virtuals, I would say still a winner. Ray, R-E-I, excuse me, is a good AI token on base. And then Fartcoin and Hype, yeah, those are still good. I'd also include SPX in that. Also, guys, real quick, if you aren't following me on X, definitely do so at the CryptoData. I try to provide you guys as much good info as I can. So here at the CryptoData, would really appreciate it. Again, guys, try to provide you guys the best info I can. Mirza asks, should we still focus on trading them? What are some other winners that you think should pay attention to? Yeah, I mean, you could still focus on trading them. We're going to still have volatility, so it would help you, or, you know, it would behoove you to actually buy at support, sell at resistance, etc. And then other coins like SPX, I think is still good. Ethereum, still good. Maybe even Solana. And then others besides that, Pepe is a good ETH beta, if you can buy it at good support. And then a few others as well. But yeah, like SPX, Fartcoin, Hype, those are some big ones. Claudio, in regards to the $8 billion that was moved to a different wallet, I saw an interesting post by CryptoKid saying the same day that 8 billion BTC was moved, OG Da Vinci announced his retirement. That's very interesting, Claudio. That is very, very interesting. I actually didn't know Da Vinci announced his retirement. I'm going to have to check that out. But that's actually something that's, I'm going to check that out, see that a little more interesting. Nikolai says, higher. Yep. Cosmox. Yo, John Luke Belmar. I love it, guys. I love it when you make comparisons to myself and Luke. Userman Crypto, tell us more about the Gem Hunters copy trading bot. Thanks. Yeah, so for Gem Hunters copy trading bots, that is available. Again, the Quantoshi partnership with Gem Hunters. All you got to do is make sure that you are signed up under the Gem Hunters referral link on BloFin, which is in the description. Once you do that, then you can actually go to the leaderboards on the copy trading on BloFin and then search for Gem Hunter, and you'll see the Gem Hunters algo bot. and you'll be able to copy trade it based off the leverage. And there's also settings that we post. So in the premium group, we posted it. And then also we have it on the live video that we have in the Gym Hunters YouTube channel, where we talk about how you can set up that copy trading bot. And basically what it does is it'll trade for you. So whatever leverage that the bot is using, you're going to use that leverage. It's not going to use all of your account to trade. So if you have $1,000, it may use like $200 or $300, right? But yeah, it's a bot that does very well in trending environments. It doesn't do as well in choppy environments. So like if Bitcoin starts sending to 120K, the bot's going to do very, very well. If Bitcoin tanks to 70K, the bot's going to do very, very well. So just keep that in mind when expecting returns on the bot. It may take a bit, but again, it's passive income. You don't have to look at it. Just set it and forget it. Make money while you sleep. Mirza says, I also thought about longing ETH today, but ultimately did not because it's overbought in the one-day stock RSI. Yeah, that's a good point as well, Mirza, is anytime you have overbought indicators, it makes it a little bit harder to buy. You usually want to see them reset before actually buying them and getting along, even if they are showing strong performance. So that's one thing is, again, if it is that major support, if the indicators are overbought, it's like a 50-50 at that point. Cyan says, sauce. Hey, appreciate you, Cyan. Or Cyan. Madara says, why haven't we taken the BTC short monthly liquidity at 111K? What do you think? You know, I think it's just the chop and some of the FUD from the tariffs and other things, the volatility, standard volatility, honestly. Eventually, we will take it. But again, once we do take it, Bitcoin's probably going to go a lot higher. Ismail says, would you consider adding Ondo among long-term spot bags? Yes and no. I'd probably add Syrup, which is Maple Finance, before I would add Ondo. It's a good RWA play. Excuse me. Hyper says, hey, what's going on, Hyper? Joe says, Data, what's your entry price for a long on ETH? Entry price, 25.60 with the stop loss at 25. I'll say no, with a stop loss at 24.95. If you can get a long on Ethereum at 25.60 with a stop loss at 24.95, I think you're pretty good. 5 to 10x leverage. Claudio, will you be investing in the Pump Fund token? How do you think it will impact Solana? No, I won't be investing in it. I know that they had a KOL round at 4 billion FTV. Will it probably 2 to 3x on launch? Most likely, especially because there is some competition between the Bonk Fund eco and the Pump Fund eco. I think Bonk Fund actually overtook Pump Fund's market share, which was interesting. The Bonk Fund eco, for those who don't know, obviously it runs on the Bonk ecosystem. You had coins like Useless, Hosako, and a few others that were actually gaining traction over the past week, which I did talk about in my tweets and in the market updates. But yeah, I won't be participating in it, just because I think eventually it'll rotate to utility season, and then we'll see Ethereum really start to rise. MPI WEC, what do you think about Trump's World Liberty Fi token on ETH? Won't that also drive ETH up? Yeah, so World Liberty Fi, right now, pre-trading, I think it's trading around 20 cents. So the pre-sale price was around 5 cents. So kudos to anyone who got in on that, or the first pre-sale, which I think was around maybe 1.5 cents or 3 cents. So, I mean, you guys are already up 4 to 6x. I do think that token will probably do well. I think we're going to see some sell pressure from the pre-sellers eventually. But if you can buy it near 5 cents on the exchange, very, very good price for World Liberty Fi. That's what I would be buying it. I'd be setting buys at 5 cents. KL Torvinger, hello again. Watching on YouTube today. Hey, awesome, KL. Good to see you here. Claudio says, does sentiment change daily? If so, does that mean I have to adjust my thesis to whatever the current market sentiment is? So yes, sentiment changes daily. You don't necessarily have to flip-flop back and forth, though. Like if we're in neutral, you can stay bullish regardless of what happens with sentiment. But if eventually we start getting into the fear territory, I would get even more bullish. Same if we get into the greed territory, I would start to take some profits on that front. Max says, hey CD, what do you think about Aura? Can you take a quick run TA? Yeah, I'll look at that once I get to the TA section for sure. Just remind me in about 10 minutes. Davis says, can you maybe say something about meme coin game and what to expect? I think meme coins are going to do good, especially as the Solana ETF gets passed and you have the Pump Fund launch coming up. I think memes will flourish, but then right after that, I think we'll see a flow to utility plays. Junior says, I've been waiting for your ETH call. Yeah, Junior, I was actually going to call it a ETH long on the weekly close above just the other day, but then we had a drop, so I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, I'm very close to calling it ETH long in Gym Hunters. Very, very close. Ghost Rider says, what's the next trade going to be posted in ETH? Also, you are the man for crypto. Thank you. Hey, appreciate you, Ghost Rider. Most likely that call on ETH is going to be over the next few days. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Ghost Rider says, does NordVPN help in general browsing in terms of crypto safety? Yes, NordVPN helps. Having a VPN helps in general, especially guys, if you are in a hotel, always use a VPN. Like, hotels are prime breeding ground for hackers to hack over the network and actually drain your accounts. Like, it can happen, right? So always use a VPN when you're in a hotel. Even if you're at your house, you can use a VPN. Obviously, having good security on your router helps. But yeah, using a VPN is never bad as well. NordVPN is a good default. Or you can even use Norton, Norton, the antivirus software. They actually have VPN they can use as well. Mehedi, is XRP out of the picture at the moment? It's not out of the picture. But I think it's just all the attention right now is on Solana, ETH, and Bitcoin. So that's kind of where the money's at. Cade Baldwell says, still bullish on Summit. I am. Let me talk with the team as well and see what they have planned. But yeah, I am still bullish on Summit. I am still holding a lot of it. Fufu, did you study George Soros' theory of reflexivity in financial markets? Fufu, I haven't. I need to look at that. I know George Soros is very, very rich. He has a lot of control in these markets. So yeah, it would behoove me to actually study that as well. Curious on your thoughts of it. Claudio, in periods of consolidation, how can I identify when a breakout will occur? Whenever your indicators are getting close to reset, or you're getting close to a support level, or there's massive fear in the market. Either of those, not good buying opportunities. Jeremy says, are the trades you call swing trades? Yes. Usually they're swing trades within a couple days or weeks. Masood, hey, what's your view on XRP and XMR? Still bullish on both. Junior, do you think Zeus will reach 100 mil this year? I do think so. It's going to be a hard road, but I do think eventually it's possible, especially if ETH season kicks off. Max, with the latest tariff situation, are we still bullish for stocks and crypto? Yes, very bullish, because eventually those tariffs are going to get dropped and there's going to be trade deals that are going to be made. Claudio, would you recommend NordVPN in order to trade from NYC? Most platforms are available. Yes, I would recommend NordVPN. Mirza, how exactly do you use Nansen to read data, and how do we know that some of the tokens on there are not pushed by bots? It's possible, but Nansen tracks smart wallets. So yes, smart wallets can be manipulated, which sometimes they are, but at the end of the day, Nansen helps you see behind the scenes, behind the veil of what's possible and what smart wallets are doing. So it's not a bad platform in my opinion, but I would definitely look at YouTube videos to make sure you get the best on that. So let's go over macro news. Hard to believe that we actually haven't even finished with macro news yet. So also, if you guys like the video, please like it. It helps us a lot, helps spread this live stream to the masses. So I'd really appreciate it, guys. But macro news. After this, I may actually get some more water because I've been talking a lot. So macro news, we have President Trump announcing a new trade deal with Vietnam. That was on July 2nd, so very bullish for them. We also have the SEC Chair Paul Atkins saying tokenization is an innovation and the agency is committed to advancing it. Guys, this is what I'm talking about. Tokenization is so important. You have the CEO of Robinhood talking about it. You have the CEO of BlackRock talking about it. You have SEC Chair talking about it. Like, if that doesn't tell you where we're going, where the future is tokenization. The future is digitization. The future is the financial revolution of cryptocurrency over the current archaic fiat system. So this is just foreshadowing of what's to come. All these people are bullish on it. It's where it's going. Make sure you jump on the train or you will get left behind. Also, you have the U.S. federal housing regulator calling on Congress to investigate federal chair Jerome Powell. So remember, there's been a lot of discourse between Jerome Powell and Trump. Trump wants Powell to cut interest rates. Powell doesn't want to do it because the economy is still doing good. There's all kinds of, obviously Trump wants Powell to cut interest rates because it's going to be good for the market. It's going to be good for our bags if the Fed cuts interest rates. But is it going to be good for the economy as a whole in the long term? Still debatable, right? So that's something where they're still looking for ways to fire Jerome Powell or try to get him to cut rates. It's just a whole circus, right? So we're going to see what happens with that. And then also, you already have Trump. I talked about passing the big, beautiful bill, which this was very bullish. I already mentioned the positives of that. The no tax on tips, no tax on overtime is going to be a big catalyst for people investing back into crypto and the TradFi space. So we're going to see that come to fruition over the next few weeks and few months. Also, we have Trump threatening additional 10% tariffs on any country aligning themselves with anti-American policies of BRICS. So this is just more FUD, again, regarding tariffs, is remember, Trump pushed that deadline back from July 9th to August 1st. So Trump is already introducing all of these tariffs. You can see, if we scroll up, the United States announced tariffs on the following countries: Bangladesh, Cambodia, Indonesia, Thailand, Bosnia, Tunisia, and Serbia. So eventually, when these countries do come back to the table to negotiate trade deals, that's when you're going to get that bullish catalyst. And that's where I say this FUD is only short term. And so the FUD is initially what caused the sell-off. Smart money buys the dips. Dumb money sells the dips. And then once you have price getting back to where it was before the FUD, then you have a trade deal that's been made and Trump drops these tariffs. Well, then you have a pump in the market. Smart money is selling into that pump. Dumb money is buying into that pump, right? So literally, guys, it's what happens in TradFi. And I get it. Some of you guys are new. You don't understand how the space works. You act on your emotions and not on data. But I'm telling you, that's what happens in the background. That's why the rich stay richer and the poor get poorer. Because smart money buys when there's fear in the market. Dumb money buys when there's greed in the market, when there's euphoria in the market. So just modify your emotions accordingly. Think like a machine and transact on the data, not on your emotions, and you will be successful, I promise you. Next, you have U.S. offering the EU 10% tariff trade deals via Politico. So that shows you that the U.S. is looking to work with the EU, and again, just more bullish catalyst for us. Also, you have Trump saying Congress should investigate Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Again, more discourse between them. Trump says tariffs have had zero impact on inflation, and Powell has been whining like a baby about non-existent inflation for months. Cut interest rates, Jerome. Again, Trump just keeps pressuring Jerome. Guys, if we get interest rate cuts in July 30th at the FOMC meeting, we are going to send so hard in the market. Bitcoin's going to break all-time highs. Alt season is going to start. Everything is going to get crazy. Quantitative tightening is going to stop. The money printer is going to be turned on. Stimulus is going to happen. And you're going to see the biggest runs you've seen all year, mark my words. And so the thing everyone is waiting on is for interest rate cuts. It's going to happen in September, but if it's going to happen before that, that's where we're going to see that catalyst. That's where we're going to see that surge in money into the market. So something good there. Now, let me go and get some water real quick, guys, and then I'll cover the Tradfi technical analysis, and then I'll go back into crypto market overview, Bitcoin overview, and then some TA for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Dominant, Solana, and some upcoming events. So give me like 30 seconds. All right, I'm back. All right, so going over the Tradfi TA. So for the S&P 500, 6220, very, very bullish right now. S&P's been making all-time highs, although the RSI is starting to cross to the downside on the weekly. We may have some downward momentum here for a couple weeks. So I would look buying at 6100 and 6000 before a bounce. Again, that psychological level at 6000 could be a good area. Looking at gold spot, it's been declining as well. So gold is originally a hedge against inflation, a hedge against uncertainty, but as the reactions are becoming muted towards tariff announcements, I believe people are starting to go more risk on. They see the writing on the wall. The big, beautiful bill is passed. They know money is about to flow into the market. Therefore, they're getting out of risk off assets like gold, investing back into risk on assets like TradFi and crypto. So good to see on that front. The RSI is still crossing to the downside at 60. Still plenty of room to go. If you're looking to buy gold, I'll look at 3,200, 3,100, and then 2,950. Now, looking at oil futures, nothing crazy here at 68. Still bouncing between 61 and 70. Still very, very healthy. As long as there's no black swans or anything, I do think oil is going to stay within this range. Still very healthy for us. And then interesting here is the DXY, so the strength of the dollar. So right now, remember I talked about last week, the RSI was oversold. Probably going to be a bounce. That's exactly what happened. The RSI is very, very close to crossing above its signal line, which it hasn't been above since January of this year. If that happens, remember, the DXY, historically, it's inversely correlated to Bitcoin. So does that mean that Bitcoin's going to go down if the DXY goes up? Not necessarily. I do think that inverse correlation is about 70%. So we do still have 30% where they could be parallel correlated. So in that aspect, you could still see Bitcoin rising as the dollar strengthens. But again, just look for that inverse correlation if the DXY does start sending here. Next, let's talk about some crypto market overview. So how the market is doing. Again, guys, if you could like the video, if you like it, we only have 22 likes on this video. Come on, guys. See if we can get at least a couple more, 10, 20, 30 more. I'd really, really appreciate it. Helps expand the stream to the masses. So one, looking at the overall market. So Bitcoin's doing great, up 0.7%, 108.8K. Ethereum's doing very, very well, up 2.7% at 2609. Some of the top gainers today is going to be Kronos, 21%, SPX, 11%, which I've talked about this being one of the strongest performers. Uni being ETH Beta, up 5.3%. Near Aave, Ondo, and Link are doing very good as well. And then Hyperliquid, remember, it's trending. It's not up that much today, but it's one of the strongest players in my opinion because it did recently integrate with Phantom. They're going to be getting a lot more fees from that. So great to see on that front. So keep an eye on Hyperliquid and a few of these strong performers. Now, looking at the on-chain data. So you can see the past month, Ethereum has been overtaking Solana. Even the past week, Ethereum has been overtaking Solana. So a lot of attention is on Ethereum, although versus yesterday, Solana declined less than Ethereum. So maybe now what we're seeing is, a sudden shift into Solana versus Ethereum because you do have the upcoming ETF and the pump fund launch. Attention will be on Solana just for a little bit. But guys, Ethereum starts to break out. Remember, crypto weeks next week, the crypto stablecoin bill, very bullish for Ethereum. In my opinion, big things are going to be happening. So stay tuned for that. And then besides that, nothing really is standing out as far as other networks. Now, fear and greed index is at 50. What does this mean? Well, we're neutral, right? So this means the market can go either way. But all you have to do is look at where your indicators are at, look at the upcoming catalyst, and look at the charts. So if things are looking to the upside, well, then we're probably going to go into the greed area. If they're looking a little bearish, probably going to go to the downside, to the fear area. Either way, though, what you want to see is when we are getting to extreme greed, look to take profits, because usually that's when we have the downturn. When we're in extreme fear, look to buy, because that's usually before an upturn. Now, if we get into greed or fear, you should start to DCA out some of your profits if we're getting into greed, and then DCA in some of your stables if we're getting into fear. So that's just a rule of thumb that I like to do. Then also looking at the monthly seasonality. So for Bitcoin, July, it's green right now, 1.47%. Historically, July has been one of the most bullish months for crypto besides October and February. So July is very, very bullish. You can see just looking at the returns in 2017 to 2022, 17%, 18%, 24%, 20%, 17%, right? Very, very bullish double-digit returns. We're only at 1.47% now. If Bitcoin even did 15% from where it's at right now, 15% at 108.8K, I mean, guys, that is an insane amount, right? I mean, we're talking at that point, Bitcoin times 1.15, you're going to be above 120K. So that's going to be very, very bullish for the market. If we get that in July, where do you think Ethereum's going to be? 3,500, 4,000, right? It's only a matter of time, guys. Writing's on the wall. You know it's coming. What I'm expecting, July to be a bullish month, August, September, and maybe the first part of October to be bearish, and then the end of October, we start sending everything. So I'll take a look at the Bitcoin dominance too in a minute. ETF flows, very, very bullish. Something I want to mention as well. Anytime we have extremely high ETF flows, I'm talking like 800 million, 900 million, even a billion, look for that to be a local top. And anytime we have huge outflows, like negative 3, 4, 500 million, look for that to be a local bottom. So like here on July 1st, like we had negative 342 million of outflows. A lot of people were scared and uncertain. That was a good local bottom to buy. So right now we've had consistent inflows. Again, not too high, 400 million, 600 million, 200 million, very, very healthy. Shows there is consistent demand in the market, especially from institutions who are the people you want to be following. Now for Ethereum, still looking very good. July 3rd was a huge day for Ethereum, 148 mil of inflows. Guys, we haven't had that big of inflows in over a month. And that shows you that institutions are very interested in Ethereum now. Even yesterday, 62 million, not bad, right? We still had Ethereum showing a lot of interest among institutions. And like I said, it is foreshadowing of the demand and price appreciation that will be happening on Ethereum in the near future. And also, guys, if you aren't following me at the CryptoData, definitely do so. I post a lot of good content, a lot of good motivational quotes, and TA that help you guys as much as possible. So definitely, if you guys aren't following, do so at the CryptoData. Provide as much useful info as I can. Now, as far as technical analysis is concerned, then we'll go over upcoming events, and then I'll answer some questions. For Bitcoin right now, it's kind of in that middle area, right? Between 106.4 and 110K. It's also between those two liquidity levels like we talked about, right? Near that 107K mark and that 110K mark. So looking at indicators, the RSI is very close to crossing above the upside, crossing above its signal line, which would be very bullish on the daily. Stock RSI is curving to the downside, but looking like we may have a little curve to the upside here very soon. So Bitcoin has been hovering between this trend line resistance. I do think it's going to break out very soon. I do think it will, because remember, the big beautiful bill going to have more injection of liquidity, crypto weeks next week, and you have other catalysts as well. So I do think that in the near future, we're going to see Bitcoin a lot higher. But if you're looking to buy here, you could buy instead of stop loss. I mean, if you want to say at 107.1K for your stop loss, or just set some limit orders near 106.4K. If it gets tagged, it gets tagged. If not, well then hopefully you're holding some spot and you still can take an advantage of that price appreciation. Now resistance can be 110K followed by the all-time high near 112. For Ethereum, Guys, this was big, right? I'm telling you guys, I'm very close to making a long call on Ethereum. It crossed above the weekly EMA, 50 EMA for the first time in over 8 months. Now, just take a look. Every time it crosses above that 50 EMA, boom, we rock it, right? Then it acts as resistance. Then it acts as support. Crossed above the 50 EMA, we rock it. Crossed above it, we rock it. So if we're taking a measurement here, I think we're going to hit about $3,000 from this weekly close here. I think it's very close to hitting 3,000. I think it'd be very advantageous for you guys to have a low leverage long around here, maybe even 3x, maybe 5x with a stop loss at $24.95. $24.95 for your stop loss. I think it's worth taking a risk. Yeah, if you can get it near $25.60, it's going to be great support in my opinion, and then it's going to go a lot higher from there. Now Solana, a lot of people are interested in TA for Solana. We do have a little bit of a symmetrical triangle. I'm just looking at it right now. If we're talking about right there and right there, right? So we do have some support and resistance forming. So Solana is probably going to do a little bit more chop before potentially breaking to the upside, in my opinion. RSI is bouncing off the signal line. The stock RSI looks like it wants to curve back to the upside. So still, going to be a little bit of consolidation before going higher. I think it's very, very possible for Solana. Now, support resistance levels, if it can close the daily above 153, I'll be looking at a minimum at 160 around its 200 EMA where it rejected from last time. And then 165 is going to be that major resistance. And then for support, if you guys are looking to buy, around 143 acted as support multiple times here in the past. And then besides that, way back here in April of this month, support at 135 is going to be the next level of support here. So either way, guys, look for a close above and then target the 200 EMA and 165, or look for buying at the 143 limit order or 135 for those major support levels. Finally, upcoming events, Token 2049 in Singapore. If any of you guys are going to be there, give me some fire emojis. I'll be at the side event, so looking forward to seeing you guys there. It's going to be a fun time. Going to be a lot of big people there, and should be on the cusp of having a major, major run afterwards. So looking forward to that. And then that's into September, beginning of October. And then looking for the FOMC meeting, July 30th. It's going to be very bullish as well. Hopefully, we should start to see either A, if we don't see interest rate cuts, maybe some foreshadowing of interest rate cuts in August or September, or some type of positive news that the Fed will be very dovish moving forward. I think that would be very good for us. But again, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. Still about 3 weeks away, so keeping an eye on that. With that, let's go ahead and answer some questions. All right. All right, Jeremy says, which indicators do you use for a great entry? So Jeremy, I'll use the RSI and the stock RSI, and then the 200 EMA and the 50 EMA. So for example, see how we bounced off of this 200 EMA here on Ethereum, and we're hovering around this 50 EMA on the daily? If you look at the past, see we bounced off it multiple times off the 200 EMA. That's why I like to use the 200 EMA. It is a trend shifting indicator. So if you cross above it, usually it's a bullish trend. Cross below it, usually a bearish trend. So I like to use that. And then I like to use the RSI and the stock RSI. So anytime you have the stock RSI being oversold, usually we have a nice bounce. And if it's in confluence with the RSI, like here, stock RSI was overbought, RSI was overbought. You saw Ethereum drop from 2580 all the way down to the 200 EMA at 2430, right? So again, it helps to use them in confluence with their EMAs and for support and resistance. So very, very bullish on the RSI, stock RSI, and then the 200 and the 50 EMA. Min of Valor says, do you now need a minimum of 3 to 5K to join Gem Hunters because of the new application process? So yeah, so I know that they started an application process for Gem Hunters. I would say yes, you do need a bigger portfolio because they want to make sure you're experienced, they want to make sure you know what you're doing, and you have the discretionary income to profit off of the premium group after you've paid your yearly ETH subscription. So yeah, I would say having more money than less is definitely a prerequisite and is going to help people in the long term when they join the premium group. Fufu says, reflexivity describes how market participants' biased perceptions can influence market fundamentals, creating a feedback loop between subjective views and objective outcomes. Yeah, so basically, like, there's a lot of catalysts. Everyone thinks the market's going to go up, therefore the market goes up, and it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. That's good, and that's why, in my opinion, support resistance levels work, because people call them magic lines, but they are just self-fulfilling prophecies. So yeah, that's also a very good point, Fufu. Solace says, seeing some lick build at 2584 on ETH. Think we see one quick lick candle? If so, where would you set a long limit order? I would set a long limit order on ETH at 2560. If you can get there, very good entry with a stop loss at 2495. Ghost Rider, I don't think people realize how much money you have made for other people. Much love, like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications. Hey, appreciate you, Ghost Rider. I try to help people and give them as much knowledge so they can make as much money as possible. You know, I mean, free information is very rare, I should say. Free, useful information in crypto. Everyone's always trying to extract. And so any time that I can help decrease that learning curve and that time needed for you to learn in crypto, because I've been in the space for 8 years, I would like you guys to know what I know in less than 6 months. Like, if you could do that, that would be awesome, because then I'd save you guys time, hopefully make you guys some money, and then you could teach everyone else in the process, and everyone could bring each other up, right? Everyone could lift each other up. So that's what we try to do at Gym Hunters. That's what I try to do. CryptoData myself, across my X account, across, you know, my various groups, and I try to make sure that you guys are having the best info possible. So thank you so much for that, Ghost Rider. Really, really appreciate it. Mahedi says, would you look at the flow key along with BTC.D? Thanks. Yes, Mahedi, let me do that real quick. Let me look at the Bitcoin dominance, and let's see where that is going. So you were saying how Bitcoin dominance looked like it was turning to the downside. So let's look on the weekly. So it looks like this bearish divergence on Bitcoin dominance is starting to play out, which, for anyone who doesn't know, Bitcoin dominance, when it goes down, everything else goes up. Alt season starts. So this bearish divergence, also the RSI was crossing below the signal line. Guys, we could be in for a nice run on Bitcoin dominance. I mean, not on Bitcoin, but on alt season, right? On alts, because Bitcoin dominance is looking to actually continue declining here. So that is, that's something good to see. And good point. RSI, stock RSI are crossing below their signal lines. Could see a nice rally on alts. Let me actually look at the USDT.D plus USDC.D. So this is also crossing below on the weekly. If we look at stablecoin dominance, rejecting, still below. Yeah, so I would say stablecoin dominance maybe has a little bit left to the downside before bouncing, which again, a little bit more rally for alts before we have another bleed. So yeah, not bad for Bitcoin dominance and for USDT dominance. USDT dominance doesn't look as, I should say, bearish as I would like. So we'll have to see how that works out. But looking at Floki, let's see on the, let's go on the daily. All right, so not too bad of a bounce there. Some resistance. All right. So for Floki, the stock RSI is a little too overbought, in my opinion. I would just be careful with that. RSI looks good, but it's approaching its 200 EMA. So I'd look for some resistance near 9.8 and then some major resistance at 115. So hopefully it can break above these. But yeah, I would not be buying Floki here. I'd much prefer to buy it at the 6 level or at the very least around the 8 level near the, with a 50 EMA. Let's see. Junior says, your opinion on the Epstein files with Trump. Here we go. So my opinion, for anyone who doesn't know, the government said there is no Epstein client list and Epstein did kill himself. My opinion on that is still that Epstein didn't kill himself and there is very much a client list, but that their recent, you could say, revelation, admission, what have you, is probably part of the deal with a big, beautiful bill. I assume that there's a lot of powers in play on the Epstein client list that they had to give something to get that bill passed. And so whether, I mean, you guys can use your imagination for which countries are some of the most powerful ones right now. But at the end of the day, it's all a game of the rich and powerful, and they're pulling a lot of the strings. And so the government still has to play ball as well. And so unfortunately, that's what happened. Now, in saying that, you know, is there something that's ever going to come out? Maybe. But right now, it seems like the government wants to squash it and move on to other things. And so that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, I think both parties, Democrat and Republicans, they both don't want this list to come out because both powerful people are on that list on both sides. So it's just the way the game's played, unfortunately. And yeah, you know, that's just my thought process on it. Natija says Bitcoin target for December, 120K plus. If it crosses above its long-term trend line on the weekly from 2018, then 150K. Right now, that trend line's around 114K. Mirza, do you think I can flip my 20K that I have on chain into 100K by the end of the year? How would you go about doing that? What would you focus on? Trenching, leverage trading, spot holding winners? I do think it's possible, Mirza. Yes, it will be difficult, but it's very possible. I would say probably split it between leverage and spot holding. So like have some Ethereum, some hype, and then maybe Solana if you want. Probably Ethereum and hype among a few others. Maybe SPX and Fartcoin as well. That may double it. And then for leverage, I would stay low leverage, probably 5x or less. You could go 10x if I make some leverage calls, but again, just make sure you have your stop losses in place. That's the biggest thing because you can lose a lot of money leverage trading, so it's very risky. So make sure you always have your stops in place and you are being patient in your entries. Claudio, historically, what's the average amount of time it takes for Bitcoin to break out a major resistance? Historically, resistance is tapped, I would say, between 3 to 6 times. And so by the third time, you can probably start seeing some weakness. By the 5th or 6th time, you can expect it to break out. Eric says, thoughts on Chronos? They could have an ETF. They're partnering with Trump or LibertyFi, and they're also the only exchange app with a token. Yeah, Chronos, I mean, it had a good performance recently, right? And so I think that it's very possible it could outperform. I mean, their ETF, everyone who's getting an ETF now is pumping, like Solana, Chronos, a few other coins. So yeah, I do think having their World LibertyFi connection still could be bullish, but in my opinion, I'm still not holding it. Just because its performance in the past hasn't been that good. Eric, it's a very interesting coin with Trump. I feel like it could pump. Yeah, there's still opportunity with it. It's just a little iffy for me. Dreamer, is Bitcoin forming head and shoulders or a double bottom? Let's see. Whoops. Hold on, guys. Let me bring the chat back. Okay, you're saying is Bitcoin forming a head and shoulders or a double bottom? Well, it depends what time frame you're looking at. If you're looking at the daily, that's not really a head and shoulders. I mean, I want to see the right side a little bit lower. Double bottom, I mean, if you're looking at the 4 hour, that's a stretch. I wouldn't say either at the moment. Even on the daily, no, I wouldn't say either. Let's see. Uzerman, could Sol break out of its weekly downward trend line soon? It's very possible. Let's see that weekly trend line. Let's see. Downward weekly trend line. Let's see if you're talking about this one here. I'm assuming you're talking about this one. Yeah. I mean, that's a good trend line right there, right? If you go to the daily, I'm sure that's, yeah, that's actually a very good trend line. Thanks for identifying that. I was not looking at that. Yeah. So it's possible. 100% it's possible. I mean, if we look at the daily, still looks good on the indicator wise. So yeah, that would mean a daily close above 153. Or I say 154, and we're absolutely sending 100% on Solana. Yeah, very, very good analysis there. Thanks for reminding me of that. Claudio, how can I spot if there's more spot traders or leverage traders in the market? There's various metrics you can look at. I mean, CoinGlass may have some metrics, and then Dune Analytics could have some metrics as well. Search Dune Analytics, D-U-N-E. Brian, sadly can't make it out. Quant easing on the way. There you go. Yeah, quantitative easing will help the market immensely. You guys need to capitalize. When quantitative tightening ends, guys, or interest rates are cut, that is your trigger to go all in and literally focus for the next few months afterwards, because it's going to be so much money flowing into the market. Claudio said the U.S. debt reaches new all-time high. How does this affect crypto? It doesn't. It's just higher debt. More money that's going to flow into the market, though. Niraj, what news factors data may trigger a crash for crypto? World War III. What else? And then obviously any other big black swans. Yeah, basically just wars with other countries, probably the biggest, because tariffs have become muted more or less as far as effects on the market. Claudio, how do you feel about exchanges, tokens like Kronos, BGB, Mansell? I'm not that bullish on them. I've never been bullish on exchange tokens unless it's a big exchange like Binance. Mohammed, I'm about to gamble my house on ETH, too much size. Right, that's what it feels like. Nikolai, can you do a quick analysis on SPX? Thanks. Yeah, let me go ahead and do SPX real quick, guys. I'm going to leave this soul chart here, actually, because it's pretty cool. By the way, for someone asking me about XRP earlier on, the daily, I'm not liking how high the stock RSI is, so I'd just be careful. Although it is above its support at 228, so we'll have to see what happens with that. SPX, I'll take a few more questions as well before the stream ends. SPX is very close to breaking above major resistance. So if it can close above, let's just say 136, very bullish, and I'll look for much higher after that. Support is going to be at 113, and then maybe, I don't want to call this micro support, but maybe at like 120 for SPX. But yeah, 113 would be the place which coincides with the 50 EMA. Resistance right here near 135. So you could short it here with like a stop loss at 139. And if it closes above, you could long it. Dreamer says, agree totally on Epstein list. Yep. Yeah, I think I would say 95% of people agree on that Epstein analysis. Most people aren't buying it. So, but again, it is what it is at the end of the day. Men of Valor, do you think SPX, Zeus, Kita, all good place to hold during the ETH run? I think so, yes. Mirza, thank you so much for all the alpha. Really appreciate it. Hey, no problem, Mirza. Exodia, Data, appreciate your work. God bless. Hey, God bless you. Hey, Exodia, did you play Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day? Because I know Exodia was one of the most powerful pieces there. Pretty cool. I was actually playing that a lot back in the day. I went to regionals and I actually got an invite to nationals. Claudio, how do you feel about Kadena and Naka? I'm fairly new to the crypto space, but these projects look good, backed by good people. No opinion on those. Kadena was a good project back in the day, but I haven't looked at them since, so I have to do more analysis, to be honest. Michael, how many touches are you looking for before you consider a trend line forming? At least 2. Like if there's 2 touches, that would say, okay, this trend line is established. 3 would nearly confirm it. But yeah, 2, I would start looking at it. Juan, do you think there will ever see BTC below 100K again? You know, anything's possible, but I think it's a very, very low chance. Like a 5% chance. Men of Valor, definitely learned a lot from you and saved me from making a ton of mistakes. Only been in profit ever since following you. CryptoData, the GOAT. Hey, Men of Valor, appreciate you so much. Like, I love it, guys, when you guys are making money, especially just off of my advice. I mean, that's amazing. Anytime you can make money off of Gym Hunters and just myself helping you guys out means the world, guys. Thank you so much. Men of Valor says, the positive universal karma is coming back to you 100x fold. What goes around comes around. Hey, appreciate that. I believe in karma as well, right? Do good to others as you would have done to you. The golden rule. Ghost Rider, do you think ETH goes to 2630 or near that? I have a profit loss at 2625, or should I take my profit loss at 2615? I do still think it goes to 2625, yes, Ghost Rider. See, Exodia says, yes, I watched the show. I liked Exodia. Hey, awesome. That show was amazing. I loved Yugi, Kaiba, all those guys. Such an amazing show. Good memories. Juan, thoughts on holding a coin like Sui long term? You know, Sui wasn't bad, I would say, a few months ago. Now there's been a little controversy around it. I do still think it's going to do good. I'm still bullish on Sui. The biggest thing you have to look for is a close above the 50 EMA and the 200 EMA. Like, they are very much major resistance points right now. So if we can close above, so I would say if Sui gives a close above at, let's call it 305 on the daily, then I would look for a lot higher. 305 close on the daily, and I'm looking at much higher after that. So yeah, load up the 200 EMA and the 50 EMA on the daily chart and look for a close above. The stock RSI is getting good reset, and then you do have some resistance here around 293. And so again, this 293 to 305 level is going to be big resistance. So if it can close above that, at that point, I would be very bullish, and then I would look for a move much higher afterwards. If you're going to buy Sui, major support 240, and then maybe 260, but 240 is the best. OnKit says, hey, CryptoData, how much time do you spend daily on charts? Honestly, maybe 1 hour to 2 hours a day. It's not a crazy amount of time, but I do look at them, and that's why I've built up this repetition and built up the knowledge that I have, and I'm able to spot patterns easier because I am looking at them so much, and I see how prices reacted, and you start identifying patterns, candlestick patterns, chart patterns, etc. So yeah, I recommend at least if you could spend an hour a day on charts and just studying how to draw support resistance levels, look at the live stream that we had of it. It's a third video on the Gym Hunters YouTube channel under the live tab. It's called Technical Analysis Basics. Watch that. It's about an hour 15 minutes, and you will learn a lot, I promise you. Exodia, thoughts on Say and Chainlink? Yeah, I just went over, well, actually here, I'll go over Say. So, personally, no thoughts on them. I do think Say is gearing towards support around this 25 cent level. The stock RSI is oversold, so again, maybe good entry near Say at 25 cents with resistance at 27.5 cents and 30 cents. And then Chainlink, let's see. All right, so Chainlink, it's getting close to resistance at $14.15, also near the 50 EMA. I wouldn't be buying Chainlink here. I'd wait for a pullback to 1270. If you can get it near 1270, that's a good area. And then 1150 is another good DCA level. Again, the stock RSI is curving to the upside, while the RSI is also curving to the upside, so it's still gonna be bullish. Like if you're still in a long on Chainlink, I'd look to take profits around 1415. If it closes above, then my next target would be 1550. Claudio, thanks for the information, CD. I made a trade based on the basics I've learned from you and made 33% today on the hype trade at 200 EMA. Blessings to you and your family. Claudio, that's so awesome. Guys, I love when you guys make money. Tell me anytime you guys make money. That makes me feel so good. And if you don't make money, then evaluate why you didn't and evaluate your emotional state. Did you get a lot of sleep? Did you eat good? What was your diet like? Were you acting off of FOMO or fear, etc.? And that will help you in the future once you journal your trades. So please, please, guys, journal your trades. Anytime you lose, please, please journal them. Write your emotional state, etc. It's going to help you. Even, you know, lose or win, it's going to help you a lot. Brian says, thanks for the stream, G. Salas, thanks for these lives, brother. Mirza, hey, no problem, guys. Mirza says, is Say a scam token? No, Say's not a scam token. It's still a good token. Davis, how do you customize your RSI in terms of its level? I just use the default levels. So like on these trading view, I use default levels. If you have it on BloFin, for example, all you have to do is click on the down arrow and then you'll see the settings. You can click on the settings button for RSI. You can actually add the smooth EMA. So I don't think it adds it initially on BloFin. So click smooth EMA. So again, click on the down arrow, click on this gear icon, go to style, and then click smooth EMA. And then I'll add the moving average there. Ghost Rider says, I'm asking this because I noticed a change. Ever since I started having ZYN, I'm more focused on life in general. Does nicotine do the same to you? You know, I haven't had nicotine. Nicotine I've only had very few amount of times, but nicotine does get me focused 100%. I've debated getting nicotine toothpicks, actually, funny enough. I haven't got them yet, but I know a lot of people who are on nicotine pouches, Zen, etc. If that works for you, awesome. I know a lot of people just use caffeine. I drink caffeine here and there. I use caffeine for workouts. But yeah, it just depends what makes you, you know, more advantageous as far as from a focus perspective and from a productivity perspective. If you're more productive on nicotine or caffeine, like, more power to you. Just make sure you're using it in moderation and you aren't addicted to it, right? That's the biggest thing. So, but yeah, if it's working for you guys, they're still somewhat healthy. Like, I say go for it. Juan says, can you do a quick TA on Aave? Yeah, I'll do one quick on Aave, and then that'll probably end the stream since we are a little overboard or over time here. But again, I don't mind being over time if I'm answering your guys' questions, making sure we get everyone answered that we can. For Aave, maybe right there. All right, so Aave, it's in the middle of a range right now. The stock RSI is overbought. I would not be buying here. I'll look for a long order on Aave around 270 and then probably 240. 270, 240, some good long areas. 270 is a little bit riskier because, again, you have all this chop here, right? Like, yeah, it's just very weak support there. I would not be trading Aave here. I would wait for a 240 entry if you can get it, and then 225 to 240 would be really the golden area as it coincides with the 200 EMA. That's my thoughts. If it keeps bouncing off the 50 EMA, I mean, yeah, you could have a 256 entry, but that's a little riskier, so just keep that in mind. If you are DCAing 260 to 270 or golden entry 225 to 240 with resistance at 310. After that, resistance is 332, and then finally around 370. Let's see. Sala says Nate likes those nicotine toothpicks, doesn't he? You know, I'm not sure actually. I have to see. Assuming I'm talking about Nate Belmar. Mirza, what makes you think Say will drop even further? Did it not just bounce off significant support level on one day? Yeah, I think it did, but the indicators, I think they were overbought, and they showed a little overbought indications. Sala, what advice does Nate have for traders to be at their best? I'm not sure Nate for traders, but I mean you should have your diet in check. You should be getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, getting sunlight, making sure your emotional state is in check. You're meditating, you're praying, and then also just making sure that you have your circadian rhythm in check. So you're going to bed at a decent time every night, waking up at a good time, and then that'll help you keep everything else aligned. Mirza says RSI is also crossing to the upside. Let me look at Say again. So maybe I was looking at it wrong. Yeah, so stock RSI was overbought, but it was kind of in the middle of this range. That's why I said wait for it to go down to 24 cents, 24.5 cents. That's the only reason. And it's up against this 200 EMA. So yes, the stock RSI is oversold, but the RSI, again, it's reset. But I still would like to buy it at major support if I'm buying something. ETH call, says Nick. Maybe. I'll keep looking at it. Claudio says Mr. Belmar recommends nicotine toothpicks. I'll have to check that out. Ghost Rider, thanks for taking the time. Stay hydrated. Thank you. Mirza, stock RSI is oversold and RSI bounced off midline around 50 across to the upside though. Yeah, it could still go up, Mirza, 100%. It's just not at major support, which is why I'm hesitant to buy it right now. But yeah, it could very well go up from here. Yeah, let me do BCH, and then that will probably conclude it. Let's see, BCH. Ooh, not too bad. BCH is close to breaking above the support near 508. The stock RSI is oversold, crossing to the upside. The RSI is close to crossing to the upside. So yeah, I would say BCH, I mean, I wouldn't be buying it here, but if it closes above 513, that may be a good catalyst to send it much higher. So at the very least, look to buy near 475. If not, I mean, I wouldn't be longing here, but I mean, these indicators are looking good if you're in a long. Look to take profit around 510. And like I said, if it closes above 513, probably going to go a lot higher from there. But guys, if you aren't following me on X at the CryptoData, definitely do so. I try to provide you guys as much good content as I can, as much useful content, motivational quotes, TA, talk things on altcoins, etc. So really appreciate it, guys, and I appreciate everyone here watching. Thank you so much. Please like the stream if you liked it. Really helps out. If you want to join the Gym Hunters free group, in the description. If you want to join the premium group, in the description as well. 1 ETH for a yearly subscription, as well as if you're not signed up for BloFin, another referral link in the description as well. Best non-KYC trading exchange. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Love you all. Have a great Tuesday. Have a great rest of the week. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.